You're welcome back. And if you're just tuning in, this is Insight Today on Global Television. Now, in the course of the program, we're going to be looking at some of the reactions that the NLC made concerning the refusal of the 35% increment of salaries and, of course, the 31st May deadline, or else the nation will be shut. Now, let's not forget the Nigerian Labour Congress recently declined a proposed 35% salary increase in Nigeria, and the NLC believed that the rise was inadequate to meet the increasing cost of living and did sufficiently cater to the workers' need. Now, this decision led to further talks and deliberations between the government and labor unions to find a more satisfactory resolution that considers the workers' concern. Now, let's take a quick look at some of the reactions of the NLC.
According to NLC President, details of the government statement have not been formally received by the NLC, saying the increment in the salary is for certain categories of workers in the public service.
We are already working together in every context of the national minimum wage fixing process to ensure that better results are achieved, which will not only speak to the welfare of Nigerian workers, but also assist economic business activities around the country.
Other union leaders who reacted to the development says the gesture should be extended to all the categories of civil servants.
That is not a minimum wage. I don't need to correct that impression. The 25 to 35% increase in salary is an outstanding that has been there. You know, other companies in the health sector have benefited from it. So this comes to the workers at the federal level and also those who are in the paramilitary, like the army, the police, and those are the men because of it. So it's not a national minimum wage. The issue of national minimum wage is still ongoing. We've not even reached the conclusion yet. So it's also an added advantage to Nigerian workers, especially those at the federal.
We believe that the minimum wage is long overdue. The president and the committee must round up whatever they are doing within the month of May and ensure that this is signed into law and workers benefit. Workers are passing through difficult situations to get transportation to work to even survive. That is why we are saying survival wage must be paid.
Minimum is just the minimum. Now the discussion around the world and member countries of the ILO is that workers deserve a living wage. Living wage means look at all parameters that will be taken into consideration so that a worker and his family will be able to have a decent living with his wages for 30 days. Should be able to pay tariff, should be able to ride his car, should be able to pay school fees, should be able to have a decent living. That's what living wage entails.
We are disappointed up to today announced the minimum wage for Nigerian workers. The expectation was that as we that we should be able to go home with high hope of government announcing a minimum wage.
The first union association, please come forward, please. Let's move. The rest to follow suit, please.
Able to announce minimum wage, not minimum, a living wage.
Edikan Michael reporting for Global TV News.
All right, we've gotten some reactions from the NLC, giving us their reactions when it comes to the 35% increment of the minimum wage. And then we're going to be looking at closely the 31st May decision that was made, the shutdown at about May 31st if these increments are not met. And like I said, I am being joined by Mr. Oni Omejiburum. He is a public affairs analyst. Good afternoon.
Pleasure to be here.
And thank you for being a part of the program.
Welcome anytime.
All right, for individuals who are wondering what this is all about, the NLC, when it comes to May 1st, when we're supposed to be celebrating Workers' Day, who are in the dark when it comes to all of this. Now, what are the core main reason behind the NLC's refusal of the 35% increments when it comes to salaries?
Well, you know, we have to first of all differentiate what they are talking about and the issue of minimum wage. This is not the minimum wage conversation now, if you notice. This is just a raise in the salary.
Of course.
And they're saying that the raise in the salary doesn't go with what is the reality on ground. For example, if someone is taking home at about 150,000 or 200,000, the raise in salary makes it from 200,000 to 260,000. So what would an extra 60,000 do for such a person in the space of 1 month? Well, I think that what they are doing is the role they are meant to play is a pressure group. And we're expecting them to do this. If they don't do this, then I would be surprised that they don't know what they are doing. So they're doing the right thing, which will now put the government in check, to come back for negotiations. This is part of the procedure in the Congress, in the Labour Congress. You have to push, then the government will now
intervene.
Exactly. They have it's a go-come thing. It's not just a one-off affair. But I believe that it's a good step, at least, that the government has thought it right to put up an increment. Then the NLC is seeking the minimum wage of over 600 and something thousand. That's not very
realistic.
Yes, in fairness, again, why some of these things are happening is because governance has a lot of departments coming together to form it. The reason why they are under pressure is because the cost of living is getting very high now.
Is high.
Of course. School fees for their kids are on the increase. Rent for their residents on the increase. So they are looking for something to, ameliorate the pressure they are getting from all these economic challenges. And that's why they are coming up. And it's not bad. They can say they should be paid minimum wage of 10 million naira. It's not bad. You're free to say what you have to say. Then the government will now sit down if they understand the process and negotiate and renegotiate. You keep on going
back and forth,
yes, until you're able to
stabilize
something that the government will be comfortable to do, and the NLC will be okay. It's not about the government can wake up and say yes, we'll pay. Where's the money to pay?
Or how consistent can it be?
That's it.
But I want to ask a question. When the government said 35% increment, did they mention whether they didn't talk about if it's going to be a particular amount? For instance, the NLC, they're proposing 615,000 naira. So that's from the minimum.
What government did was just to say, whatever you are getting now, we are paying you an extra 35% from 25. Not everybody will get 35. Some are getting 25, some 28, some 30. So government, what basically they've done is to say, we are paying you a particular percentage increment from the basic thing you've been collecting.
So for someone, now if we're talking about how to balance the economy, we know there is high cost of living, we know that there is removal of fuel subsidy. Now the electricity tariff is something that let's not even delve into, because I'm sure you belong in the band A group.
I don't know.
we have the band A, band B, band C, and because of what is happening in the power sector, we are all going to move to band A, because there are ways in which the government wants to take the money to clear out all these indebtedness and loans. Now, looking at this critically, if we're going to be fair to someone who earns less than 30,000, there are people that earned 30,000 naira, for instance, what would the increment of 35 or 25% do in that salary in this present economy? Really?
Well, everybody is facing the economic challenge. It's not just basically with the government.
But Mr. Oni, do you agree with me that some people have it easier than others?
Yeah.
For someone who has 5 children to feed and is earning 30,000 naira, or let's say 40,000 naira, and the increment of 25, what can that basically do when it comes to fees, when it comes to transportation, when it comes to house rent, when it comes to school fees, all of these things?
To discuss people who have 8 children and 10 children. Yes, I won't come into that because you know how much you earn. Why are you having 10 children?
But did you know that the economy is going to get to this point?
Look, see, let me tell you the truth about this. In as much as the government is expected to do so much, mind you that these increments we are talking about is actually causing an indirect inflation to our economy. It's not even stabilizing our economy. But because it's not about paying you 615,000. What can 615,000 naira buy?
If the economy, if there is a high cost of living, basically.
Thank you very much. So you see, so it's not about pushing money into salaries and making our numbers great. It's about getting the economy to work. If the economy is good, 50,000 naira can do a lot. Before now, let's say some 6, 7, 10 years ago, 50,000 was a big deal.
Of course.
Now it's something that you can do one swipe in a fast food joint and you're done with it.
So in your own opinion, don't you think the government should concentrate more on how to stabilize the economy than this increment?
That is exactly what I'm saying. That's why I'm on the part that it's not about adding up money and people are earning 10 million when 10 million can't buy anything.
Or can solve a problem.
Why don't we focus that energy on revamping this economy? It's only when hospitals are functional, students are getting
Proper
scholarships,
health, yes, education.
yeah, education in these government schools at the barest minimum. And if our school system is working very well, I don't think you need to pay so much. Remember when we started, I said there is a lot of economic issues that is putting on pressure on the little meager salaries that these people are receiving. And that's why they're saying 35% increment is inconsequential. What's that?
Not true.
As I said, someone earning 200,000, you pay an extra 60,000. What will the person do with it? So that's why they are insisting on the 15,000. They came
Yes.
with a million plus.
Yes.
Before now. And again, when you juxtapose it with what our politicians are going home with, that's also another issue. You're telling these guys to calm down. You're increasing your own salary.
Exactly.
So they are saying those things, and that's why they are protesting. But government, I believe, should know what to do by sitting down with these guys and harnessing and organizing and probably dialoguing with these people to get a feasible amount. But for someone like me, I don't think it's even necessary jumping up all around this whole salary thing. I think they should tackle the root. If the prices of things come down in the market, they may not need that much cash if the little can buy much for them.
I completely agree with you. Now, how does NLC plan to address the concerns of the workers regarding this proposal, or when it comes to the raising money? There's some individuals who see this as absurd, like 615,000 naira. Really? How do you plan to bring everyone together? Not minding the fact that there's a 31st May ultimatum.
Yeah, well, remember when I started, I told you that NLC is a pressure group. This is what they are expected to do. Even if you tell NLC, we're going to pay you 700,000, they'll ask for 2 million. It is normal. They're looking for the welfare of their members. And it's okay. It's their job to keep pushing to see how much they can get. It's part of the process in pressure. Negotiation is part of the pressure that you go ask for the big one. And when negotiations come, you can come to the midstream and balance up yourself. But if you go too low, government may even start negotiating. If they are set 100,000 for minimum wage, government will start negotiating maybe from 50 to 70, right? But now there is 615. Government is expected to come to something meaningful. But the reality is, if the government is transparent enough with her activities, people will understand that, in fairness, we are not gathering much yet as a people. We are using baskets to fetch water now, both in our tax system, both in our revenues, internally and externally revenues. There are a lot of things. Miners are being arrested here and there for illegal mining. These are the things that are sabotaging. They are the things sabotaging our economy as a nation. And until you tackle those things, you have a lot of leakages, and the government ends up not having enough in their coffers. Do you understand? But if they can get serious about true governance and block off all these little messes around, and come together, you find out that we'll make a lot of money. Nigeria has the potential of pulling in a lot of funds, and if that happens and our economy starts getting back to her feet, and the Naira starts taking a better position, you find out that in 1980 something, if you paid somebody 1,000 Naira, what you paid the person is huge.
It's really huge. But looking at it, Mr. Oni, have you, through the course of this month, or last month, let me say, and we found that there's depreciation when it comes to the dollar. But yet, have you seen or felt any change at all?
No, well, naturally, human beings are natural with, how do I say it now? They like to take advantage of situations. So business people, some of them are genuinely scared that they do not know what's going to happen next. While some are technical about this, they know that the dollar is down, but they will keep selling at their price. Now, that is the problem of citizenships. Now, the citizenry, they are not getting real, and to the country, they are being biased. They are not fair to the nation. So, but if the government is...
But how can we be... Let me come in. How do you be fair to a nation that you are not sure, you're not sure of the next move?
The word is not yet. There is lack of transparency. One thing about governance, people are willing to follow when you are honest. When they see that Mr. President is cutting down his own expenditure and he's telling them, see how much we have, see what we're going to do with this. But in situations where people are feeling like we are not well treated, and here in the National Assembly, people are discussing about the SUV. I mean,
bulletproof cars.
Those are conversations going on in a country, and you're telling them you don't have money. They'll say you're a joker. So everyone to his own way. They want to now do their things their own way. And that alone is an economic sabotage. Because as you can see, prices have refused to come down in the market.
Exactly.
Even with the dropping of the whole... And excuse me, it's not even everything in the country that was affected by dollar. That's not true. But citizens, what's the business of a tomato seller with dollar? But we all got into that dollar madness.
And if you look at it, Mr. Onyi, there is a rise in cost when it comes to the tomatoes you just mentioned now. It's very expensive in the market, like you just mentioned.
Because there is a domino effect. That one has to also do maybe with insecurity, apart from the other issues.
It could be, yes.
Because that's why I said that. Why we are having this pressure in our economy is because the economy doesn't stand alone in governance. Mind you, economy is a result of your security apparatus, the welfare of your people. All those things affect the economy. When there is insecurity, economy will suffer because people in the farms are not able to do their business. They are not able to cultivate. They are being threatened. Businesses are shutting down.
Yes, they are.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Insecurity is just what we are talking about. And insecurity also affects the illiteracy in the nation. A lot of schools have been shut down because of insecurity. So there's a domino effect. When that happens, this happens, it brings crime, and our economy is also affected. We are not producing as much as we are supposed to produce internally for ourselves. A lot of farms have shut down now. And these crops are seasonal. If you don't plant in January, you are not harvesting jack in July.
Very true.
So what are people that couldn't plant in January, or people that are not planting now that the rains have started coming now? Some people are not able to go to their farms. So what do you expect them to harvest by December? Absolutely nothing. So the very few that comes to the market will naturally be expensive. And the economy is once more sabotaged. It's because we don't have enough security checks. That's why foreigners come into our country and they do illegal mining. You give them a particular cadastre to mine, they extend, they do whatever they like. Nobody is looking out for them.
They're no monitoring committee.
Our revenue is dwindling, is dropping, and these things have effect. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes,
but
I do.
If everything is okay, there are a lot of things that will give Nigeria money. Tourism is there to give Nigeria money. Do you know that tourism, if well harnessed, can give Nigeria a minimum of at least $500 million a month, if we are serious?
But with the economy, and we have so many corruption that is ongoing in our country, and you are aware of the corruption rate, and it's every man for himself when it comes to those in the government parastatals. So you're aware of that, aren't you?
Well, corruption is not a news in Nigeria. If you mention it now, it's like a cliche. It's something we hear every time. And, there's no big deal about corruption anymore. And until we get serious, in fact, there's something that is worse than corruption in Nigeria: impunity. The idea that nothing will ever happen.
If you can get away with crime.
Exactly. And indeed, you can see that in government most times nothing ever happens.
That's true.
People that were arrested for crimes are contesting an election, and their people are free.
But there's a new face now when it comes to the EFCC. The EFCC, they've really stepped up their games. If you've been reading the news and the ongoing issues at hand when it comes to EFCC, I don't want to mention Yahaya Bello and all of these past governors who are being probed at the moment. So I think, ask me a question.
Since the dispensation of democracy, the commencement of democracy, the advent of democracy.
Where are we going with all of this?
Thank you. So now, tell me how many governors have been jailed for this crime?
Okay, none.
Tell me how many were prosecuted and found guilty. We just hear that someone stole 100 billion, and next thing we don't hear about it anymore. What is really going on? And he's now in the Senate, and he's down there, and he's down there. It's not news. This is just, very soon you may not hear about it.
I don't think so. I think this is a different administration. Let's see how well this plays out. Let's be hopeful. Let's be hopeful. Let's be hopeful and see how well this plays out. Now let's look at the 31st May ultimatum. The thing about Nigeria is when things go bad before government swing into action. Like we heard about the high cost of living, how people were complaining, going to the market. It was when there was a raid in our storehouses that the government came out to react. It was when there was a protest in Niger, Mina. That was when the government came and reacted. How far do you think we'll go with this 31st May ultimatum?
Well, the ultimatum is long overdue. Yes, it should have come some months, even years before now. Nevertheless, as I said, what do they even want the government to do? It's because government is not being transparent in their transactions. That's why these people can categorically say that they're going to shut down the nation. But if government is transparent, you're shutting down. It's your nation too now.
Exactly.
There is an adage in my place that anybody holding himself is holding, anybody holding the ground is holding himself. So if you shut down the country, what would they lose? What would those in government lose?
Maybe I think you're looking at it in the aspect of the speedy return in which it will bring, because the government is always lingering, slow, always going about the bush.
NLC is a pressure group. It's okay. It's okay for them to say, government, we are going to shut down. Now, there is a lot of time between now and 31st of May, and I'm sure that once this government is sensitive enough, they must intervene. There is a minister for labor that can sit down and say, listen, with what we have on ground, we may be able to pay so amount, or we may not be able to pay so amount.
There should be a negotiation.
Of course, and I believe between now and 31st, there will be a negotiation that will stabilize some of it. I just hope and pray that we don't shut down.
No, please. I think it will not get to that point. We still have a long way to. Today's just second,
Yes,
so we have a lot of time.
Of
All right, this is where I have to draw the curtain, Mr. Onyi Omejiburu.
Yes, please.
Thank you so much for being a part of Insight Today. The part one, this is part A of Insight Today. Hope to have you some other time again. Thank you so much. All right, now that's the part A of the program, Insight Today. Part B, I will be joined by our labor correspondent, Michael Adikan, to tell me what played out yesterday being May 1st. Do not go anywhere. Insight Today continues shortly. All right, this is Inside Today. You are welcome back. And this is part 2 of the program. Today, I will be talking to our labor correspondent, Northern Michael Deacon. He will be joining me because he was at the Eagle Square yesterday to tell me what played out. And of course, the footage will be playing as we are in the course of our conversation. Hi, Michael. How are you doing today?
Yeah, good afternoon, viewers. Good afternoon, Ma.
Well done. How are you doing? Well done. Thank you for being a part of the program. I just had to have you here because you were at the Eagle Square yesterday. Yesterday was May 1st, Workers' Day. What played out?
Yeah, I mean, it was an incident that our workers were reflecting on if they really been prioritized in the country. Because, prior to this time, we had where they have met several demands, issues of minimum wage, workers' welfareism, living wage, not even issues of minimum wage. And government have been having consultation meeting from January 30th that set up a committee to actually look into the review of their wage. But I mean, up to
this is long overdue, right?
Up to yesterday, they didn't come out with anything. What we had government do was to rush to make an announcement of 35% increase for military officers, police, and all of that, which hasn't reflected on the generality of Nigerian labor. So they are not in any way happy about it.
Of course.
To them, yesterday was just celebrating the fact that they are alive, even irrespective of the hardship in the country. They have actually come out and survived of this. So it was just about celebrating because they even made instances that even Christians have to celebrate even when things are actually not
exactly.
Muslims have to still celebrate even when things are not working. So they needed to mark their day. But in real sense of what labor really means to them, it wasn't because issues of reflecting even that after 5 years wage was too.
Exactly.
But I mean, it hasn't happened. So it was a sad note for them, a mixed feeling, I would say.
Let's look at the 615,000 naira increment in which they are the ultimatum they've given in 31st of May. How realistic is it? Let's look at from where we're coming from January till now, and now they come out and they say it's either 615,000 naira or nothing, or we shut down the nation. How realistic do you think this is?
Yeah, I mean, Labour actually coming out with their own approach. They are making that suggestion so that government can also say, okay, we do not have, when it means the bargaining.
Yes,
I will come with your own table so that your
offer acceptance,
so that the other partner can actually bring theirs. So what Labour are actually bringing to the table is their own demand. And it's, I mean, every government has to always listen to a union coming out with whatever they want to demand. So it's the right of government to say, oh, we understand the plight. I mean, if we listen to the remarks of the president through his media assistant yesterday, he understood the fact that labor are very much important in the system. So having underscored this, what steps are you making to do? So if they have actually suggested 615,000 to be the bare minimum wage, the government should say, okay, we cannot afford 615. This is what we can, and it will actually be reflective to the economic reality that you are facing, because issues of 30,000 now was even raised. Some states are not in any way even paying.
Of course, there are lapses.
How about even the new one that we will come in? So there should also be a mechanism to compel states to make sure that whatever minimum wage that will come out of all of these negotiations, you'll be able to make some agreement out of it.
You know what, Michael? Let us talk about the balance in all of this. Is it actually the increment of minimum wage, or the fact that we need a better and brighter economy when it comes to the low cost of living, when it comes to, look at the removal of fuel subsidy. We're talking about it right now, how you came to work, the queue in which I have faced. And we're not even talking about that. Let's look at the tariff in electricity, band A, band B, band C. We're looking at all of this. Do you think the increment, the 615,000 naira, will make any difference if there is high cost of living in Nigeria as we speak?
The reality is actually facing Nigerians. You understand, even if the minimum wage has to be increased, do not fail to understand that even the marketers and those other providers who also step up their game to say, oh, over 650,000 is lying on your account as minimum wage. We cannot keep on selling.
We have to exploit you.
Also keep on rendering your services at this amount. So it's a two-way thing, and a giving and a give out situation. So labor should also understand that even if they get to increase the minimum wage, prices at the market, in as much as regulation of
inflation
prices is still living in the hands of individuals to do, it will still have this inflation. But then, away from just glamoring for minimum wage. There's a need for government to understand that to prioritize production. I mean, we are still having more demands, pressure on a naira and a currency. We're still having to import several things into the country.
Exactly.
This government have not in any way done anything about the refineries up to now. So there's still a lot of pressures on our currency. So until all these things are being done, I mean, we can also say, okay, fine, whatever you have can be able to take care of the bills you may be able to, deal with. Look at the issues of power. Up to now, even the National Assembly on their resumption have actually had to summon the Minister of Power to reflect over the electricity tariff and all
Exactly.
of that. And the pressure is just quite much on them
It
because
is.
the means of actually generating the powers and transmissions and distributions has a whole lot of processes. And government will tell you that they are spending a lot, and that's why the reason why they are asking of the increase in tariff.
But you know what, Michael? I was speaking with someone and he said, Labour, they should prioritize speaking with the government about our local goods. I think that will give an edge when it comes to patronizing local goods.
Yeah, Nigerian products.
Like Nigerian product is very important. That is one. In fact, giving that boost when it comes to agriculture, we should concentrate on agriculture, prioritize local goods like I have mentioned, and talk about things instead of making so much noise when it comes to shutting down the economy. That was going to the extreme. What do you think is really going to the extreme?
Exactly, because when you understand the fact that the pressure is actually real. I mean, on the currency that we have and on the economy. The moment where we're still having a National Assembly importing some of their vehicles at the expense of a naira to the country is worrisome. At the moment where farmers are no longer safe to go back to the farm to produce safely, their farm produce.
It's worrisome.
It's worrisome. The moment where you understand that transportation, we are battling with issues of transportation where movement of goods from one location to another is still on the high side. All of these are reflective of the fact that we will still battle with these until we get to fix that issues, because these are the issues. Oh, look at issues of CNG buses that government had promised that upon removal of subsidy. It's about over a year going now.
And there was a promise that it was going to be launched May 1st. I'm very much aware, and yet
it has always been. And then you begin to ask questions: where are the savings of the subsidy removal for over the month you've actually saved?
Exactly.
For NNPC up to now have not accounted to what they've been using the money for. We've not seen the CNG buses on the road. We've not seen any improvement. So these are where, the Labour are finding it very hard on them, because these are the policies the government are making.
You know, on the part A of the program Inside Today, Mr. Onyi Omejiburu, he mentioned something. He said the reason why Labour Party is going in the extreme is because there is no transparency when it comes to government.
Even issues of engagement.
There is no balance.
When government takes decisions and then they do not in any way sit down to really criticize, look at the data, look at your analysis, look at your approach. Have you consulted the stakeholders? Have you bring people that are involved before you can actually result at this? When you take that kind of decisions and then you fail, the people will definitely react. But it was everybody's business, everybody coming to understand that this is why we need to do this, and this is where we are starting from, this is where we are going to understand with us, then people will understand. So the moment we are bringing up their policy without engaging the labor, without engaging the different stakeholders
and different unions, because sometimes they have to be in sync together.
All of them together. The moment where you are doing these things and your policy fails, definitely there will be a reaction.
Exactly. No, you know, I was speaking with someone and he says he doesn't want to be mentioned, but Juwai, this is what I think. His problem with NLC, they come out today and they say they're going to shut down the nation. If they don't stick to their word, they'll come out and say there's going to be a 3-day strike, 7-day warning strike. We're waiting for you to hit and let us know, because that's the only language the federal government understands. If the protest, forget about, stop prolonging when it comes to 3 days, 7 days warning strike, 3 days warning strike. Go and do whatever you want to do so that the government will know how serious you are. I think NLC, they have a lot of seriousness to do when it comes to issues like when it concerns workers' welfareism, like you have mentioned. But looking at it critically, the way forward, the way we've seen every other thing, we have security that we're battling with, we have removal of subsidy we're battling with, we have the high cost when it comes to electricity we're battling with, education we're battling with, so many issues. What is the way forward? For the people that you spoke with, the responses you got, I know they said they're celebrating themselves and not the increment, but what was the response that you got yesterday, Michael?
Yeah, I mean, when you understand that the hardship is there, and
biting hard.
It's on the face of not just the workers, it's the reality of
Of course.
You understand that everybody are finding it very hard to survive. Look at issues of housing. look at issues of transportation, you look at issues of feeding, food inflation, you look at issues of fees, educational sector and all of that. So every sector is actually biting, and there's no safe place to go.
No,
it's a situation where young people say, if you stay inside, you will still spend, and if you go outside, you definitely spend. So basically, there's nowhere to run to. So the workers are still finding these some of them have packed their cars for many months.
Of course.
Because you cannot, a civil servant who earns a minimum of 50,000, 30,000, 40,000 cannot be able to fuel a car. Now black market are selling at about 1,200.
1,500.
So these are the issues. They are not asking too much, man. They are only saying they want a living wage. They want something that is actually meeting up to the standard of living. They are not after getting many cars. They are not after getting many houses. They are not asking too much. What the level from the interactions I got from them was the fact that they just need a good living. I mean, things to work for them to be able to afford basic necessity and also going about their lives.
But you know, Michael, like I mentioned before, it's not all about a good living wage. There is still high cost of living. If these problems,
the problem.
Exactly, that is it. So what I would have said for the LLC President Ajero would have said, fix the problem first before we go into the increment, whether it's 35, whether it's 615,000 naira. Let us fix the problem now. I think that's the way forward. Don't you think?
About 16 points are demands, and one of those things, I mean, several of them, the issues of minimum wage is just a number of some of these demand. They have advised government on some of the policies to take. They have advised government on CBN policies. They have advised government in the agricultural sector. They have advised government on power and all of this. So it is their concern to understand that until all of these things are being fixed then, but it pains them when you understand that some senators, some House of Reps members, some governors, some politicians are still eating fat in the midst of telling Nigerians to side special. That is where that's where the hard truth is coming into town. So when you understand that these people that are asking you to incite special, these people that are asking you to bear with us are actually living far better than them. So they will keep on agitating that, but it's their concern to understand that there's a need to from consumption to production. There's a need to be able to CBN to review their policies, not giving it to the hands of the forex operators to be able to determine the forex market and all of that. Some of these issues from the agricultural sector, issues of insecurity. We understand that farmers are now away from the farms.
Of course.
Back to the farm
no, they're not.
Insecurity. So
of course.
These are the issues they've asked government to be able to hasten on to. Even the issues of local government autonomy. They have also advised government that they must grant autonomy to the local government. So that local government can be independent. It will surprise you that some states up to today have not conducted local government elections. They only make some appointment into the committees
and
so that whatever funds are coming from the federal government, they can make a control.
Exactly.
This will not make, power, which is the three tiers of government from the federal, state to the local government,
of course,
to get down to the grassroots. So all of these things has been their demand. The government must prioritize all this so that they can be able to take workers out of this.
But you know what, Michael? I sat down and I watched all of these come into play. And I said to myself, why is it that NLC keeps going back and forth with this particular issue? We keep going back and forth. I think it's long overdue. If we're going to come out with this rage, we're going to come out with telling us, putting their foot down and saying, okay, 1 million, and it was 1 million naira before, and then they reduced it to 615,000 naira. Don't you think it would have been consistent so that there would have been like a change? If really the NLC is the voice for the workers, because it's a union, so that every other union will be in sync. Because there are some unions, TUC might not be in line with some of the things that NLC is saying, and NLC might not be in line. So they need they need to come together. And do you think sometimes they just lay back approach that I perceive? But am I wrong? Please beg to differ.
Yeah, I mean, you understand what issues of unionism, fight of unionism did not start today. It is very sad that of recent they have derailed from what the union really stood for.
Really?
I mean, sometimes you see them going to the meeting in Aso Rock, and when they come out of it, either the TUC will go the other way, and then NLC will keep on the protest.
Exactly.
It will not be a divided house and all of that. So I understand that it has been also politicians are having a way into this system to manipulate some of the members and all of that. But the point is very clear. We cannot silence, the mouth of several Nigerian workers who understands that they have the power we understand the fact that
But
they
Michael,
owns all of these things.
but
So,
Michael, these are just some. We need everyone to be in unison.
when
Unison
the leadership of this
is
union
divided.
is divided,
There is a
definitely
problem.
there will be a ripple effect on it. But it's a concern the fact that there's a need to make sure that during their recruitment of leadership, they should understand, they should be able to get men of integrity. Because sometimes Joe Ajero is being questioned, sometimes the TUC president is being questioned, and all of that. So sometimes there are questions of you went to Aso Rock, the meeting with the president. What I mean, at the end of the day, probably there was an envelope, given to you. At the end of the day, you get to silence, and then when sometimes things are not working out again, you get to speak out again. So it has always been issues of pushing you, some
back
people pushing you to speak and all of that. But when you understand that if they stand on their ground, the ideal of their existence, protecting the welfare and workers and all of that, it will always work. Nigerian workers will always be for them. So that divided issues of leadership has to do with the fact that Labour has a role to play, workers have a role to play when they are electing their leadership into the union.
I think so. I think you have spoken really, really well. But looking at it critically, do you think there's any headway in all of this?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, give it to this government. Government of President Bola Tinubu, according to some workers, they also commended the fact that this is a listening government.
Okay.
Understand the fact that this
listening and active.
Yeah, understand the fact that this government coming on board, they had several issues to face, from inflation, what the CBN, the government of MFLA did in the CBN, what happened in the country. So they are trying to fix all of these issues. You understand why President removed subsidy, that it was because of some persons in the NNPC, jeopardizing all sectors and all of that.
Very
so
true.
That was the reason why he had to remove subsidy. So some of these policies are tough ones. The President even acknowledged this in his recent visit to Netherlands. But in all of that, they've given kudos to the government for the fact that they are engaging well with NLC. Look at almost all the protests NLC have held. Government always called them to the sitting table. I've seen the president having a meeting with the NLC leadership. So it means that the president acknowledged the fact. And don't forget that this is a man that was a unionist in Lagos.
Of course, he was a governor. He was a governor, yes.
The cause of workers.
Very true, very true.
He has been a part of them. So it is a reflection of the fact that Tinubu might do something differently from what other presidents. So it has been given the benefit of that. But it is over 1 year now. We're still looking forward to see what the president will do differently. But they have confidence in him. Vice President was there to represent the president at the event yesterday. So it gave them the hope. It gave them the assurance that things will definitely get to turn out for good. But we're still, all of us, even Nigerians, are just giving the president benefit of that as well in regard to all the promises that he has told us. So let's just get to see. There might be a way out of all of this situation.
I like the fact that you said there might be a way out in all of this. But, I keep, for every time I keep reflecting back to the Independence Day speech by our President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and he mentioned the monitoring committee when it comes to issues like this. He mentioned giving ears to the downtrodden. We are all equal. He mentioned all of that. And do you think he's, so far, let's look aside, for every good there's always, for every bad there's always a good side in something. So do you think, let's give him a little bit of credit, or what do you perceive?
It must be commended. I mean, it must be commended. Look at what the CBN are doing. They came in, dollar had to fight to 1,800. So they did a whole lot of...
But Michael, despite the fact that there's a depreciation in dollar, well, nothing has changed.
Yeah, because when you go to the market, it's still
the same.
That's when the Commission for Price Regulations actually come in. They leave the issues of prices to the hands of individuals to control. So sometimes these market forces get to determine the prices of how much you want to sell and all of that. So I think recently they have stepped up their games to visit some supermarket to lock up and all of that. But then, because when you go to the market, even somebody that is selling a local goods will tell you dollar is high.
Dollar is high.
You begin to wonder if he or she transport.
Someone who's selling Gary tomatoes will tell you dollar is high.
The price of dollar is high. So it wasn't reflective. Yeah. So that was the issue that Nigerians are facing. But I think some of the policies, I mean, look at giving out $10,000 to build the chains to actually make. So some of these things lessen up the pressure on issues of a dollar and the exchange rate in the country. So some of the policies have been fantastic. I mean, subsidy removal, the gains of it is there. But we are only afraid because we also understand the fact that some politicians will always be politicians.
Of course.
What happens to the people that are handling these things? Also, sometimes they will get some funds out of our savings, but the process, the transparency, in dissemination, in using it for government projects and all of that is questionable. Look at the issues of borrowing. They have been borrowing. What happened to? Are we borrowing to the right? Are we putting these funds that we're borrowing to the right structures, right projects that can reflect production? these are the questions we always ask. I feel if the president is actually promising Nigerians, giving us his word that we have 2027 to also determine if he will go back to Aso Rock. He has told Nigerians that if I do not, deliver, don't vote for me. So it is a way of trying to also tell Nigerians that I'll definitely do the job before 2027. So we have high hope on the presidency. So we just have to, as we get to scratch the back, we also get to also appreciate them when they do well.
That is it. And with that, I have to wrap it up on the program. And let's not forget, if you're just tuning in, remember the Nigerian Labour Congress recently declined a proposed 35% salary increase in Nigeria. Now, the NLC believed that the raise was inadequate to meet the increasing cost of living and didn't sufficiently cater to the workers' needs. Now, this decision led to further talks and deliberations between the government and labor unions to find a more satisfactory resolution that considers the workers' income. And let's not forget, there is a 31st May ultimatum if these requirements are not met. All right, thank you, our labor correspondent, Michael Adekin. Thank you for being a part of Insight today, always delivering, as always. Thank you so much for being a part of the program.
Always a pleasure to join on the program.
All right, and with that, I have to wrap it up on the program. Thank you all so much for being a part of the program today, and hope you were well informed when it comes to the labor union and what happened and what played out at the Eagle Square yesterday, May 1st. Still celebrating workers because you have done a lot. Have an amazing day. I am Jumai Manson. Bye-bye.